Close to the polar circle in the north of Sweden lies the legendary testing grounds of Arvidsjaur. On a frozen lake with an ice layer of almost a meter, even an airplane could touch down. This is where the car industry tests their existing and future vehicles, finding out if they master the freezing temperatures of up to minus 40 degrees and the constant power and friction applied to the engine, clutch and transmission. In winter time, only a few hours of sunlight remain. Time is precious before the last rays disappear into the northern night. This place is also special to me. 5 years ago, my drifting story began right here. For the first time on a frozen lake, I realized that this is the ultimate form of driving. Challenging, treacherous, yet the most fun you can have on four wheels. With speed and agility, but in a smooth way, a controlled ballet with throttle and steering. On that day in January, I also met the ultimate form of a Volkswagen Golf, the Mark 7 Golf R that was introduced right here. It is the day I really learned how to do this. Join me on this ride. Since this is a drifting review, we will start with exactly that as a short preview. Later on we have a whole track to conquer, but here we just do the circle. Thomas the snowplow. So now at the moment left round, and this is really great to test the car, see how it feels, how it handles, and you steer with your throttle. You can see here when I'm going to the outside I get slower again, for example, and when I'm going too much to the inside I just apply a little bit more throttle, and then I'm going to the outside. So here again, almost facing the inside of the corner, just a little bit steering adjustment. You can see here it's really slippery now on the inside of this circle, a lot of ice. Applying some more throttle, and we're going sideways all the time. No, what? See here, a little bit too much just to the inside. Even when we are in a cinematic story episode, of course, we on Autogefühl always want to give you some details about the vehicle. Let me tell you here about the Golf R, that in the front, since the facelift, you always get LED headlamps from standard equipment. You get that for the high trim Golf versions and also for those special sport versions with a nice LED daytime running light as well, the R badge, and a stronger lower bumper. Oh, I hope we won't use this towing hook here right today. We got one in the front and one in the rear. If you wonder why the engine is running, since we have so low temperatures here, you know, everything is basically fluid now, especially also behind the cooler. And if we would then just stop the car, we would basically get concrete ice everywhere. And then when we need to start the car up again, that's not that good. So usually people leave their cars running here when they just have a short stop or something and you can't heat the vehicle. And we also have some special tires here today, special winter tires with more profile. In this case, also with some spikes mounted on. 4 meters 26, 14 foot or 168 inches is the length of this hatch Golf R. There's also the variant available, the estate version. We also have a review of that on Autogefühl. This one here is the 5-door version of the hatch. There's also 3 doors still available, not for the base Golfs, but for those performance Golfs. Those ones are 17-inch wheels, so you can fit those winter tires on that. Bigger ones do not make sense here. Usually it comes with 18-inch, an option you can get 19-inch. Then also the so-called performance pack with bigger brakes even, and also with the Akrapovic exhaust. We also have that mounted on this very vehicle. The Golf itself has this very strong C-pillar as always, so it has a very classic design, yes, but somehow also timeless. We'll soon also see how it plays out with the 8th generation Golf. Of course, we will update you on Autogefühl as soon as we have news on that one. When you have LEDs in the front, like here with the Golf R, you also have those LEDs in the rear with this turning indicator that is in a cascading style. Is a very nice feature that adds some more specialty to the car. Here then the optional Akrapovic exhaust, which was not available, was recently found out for the Golf GTI TCR. That one remains exclusive for the Golf R and surely adds some more sound. So while we look under the engine, you can see there are some other engines on the way here. This one would be the more, let's say, suitable form of transport right there. But they are of course off track, we are on track, so we can also drive with wheels. Well, this one here is a 2-liter TSI turbo petrol engine. Since the facelift with 310 horsepower, so a little 10 horsepower more. 4.6 seconds is the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. It has been improved. 4.6 here with the Dsg, the new 7-speed Dsg Wet Clutch. In the Volkswagen Corporation, they moved all those Dsgs to now step by step to the Wet Clutch. So maybe some are left, some engine variants, but more and more are being replaced, and soon you'll only be able to get the Wet Clutch because this one here is more durable. They had some problems with the dry clutch systems like in China and in Japan with a lot of traffic situations and so on. Then they start to overheat. But here, this one is actually also the very best test for this one. First of all, for the all-wheel drive system, because it is here basically front-wheel drive plus rear-wheel drive on demand, maximum of 50-50 distribution. But with the Golf R, with so much performance, then of course more and more power is being transported to the rear wheels. And here, we know on those snowy tracks here, we can really test it very well. Does the clutch do any overheating, or is the all-wheel drive system coming to a point where it's somehow not working anymore? If that would be overheating, then it would be front-wheel drive only, and the system would say, before I damage anything, I completely declutch the rear drive, and that's it. But I don't know the instructors here also very well. I've been going with them here also for a couple of years now. And they said, especially now with this new 7-speed Dsg since the facelift and with this all-wheel drive system, I mean, the Golf R is the maximum power you can get for this very platform, basically. And they said, so far, in this setup here, there was never any problem with overheating, both from the clutch nor from the all-wheel drive system, nor from the Dsg. So this is also one reason I sometimes say it doesn't always have to be the newest car. This one here is in the outgoing stages of the model. But that also means that everything is very well developed and the evolution of this very generation is almost at its end. And well, this can be a really good advantage if you then think about, everything has been tested and also updated. So this seems to be like a pretty reliable bet meanwhile. Let's see about the interior here. Take a good look. Great build quality from the Golf. That's what is basically all distinguishing from its competitors. Soft touch in the front part. It's not in the back part of the rear doors though. Then this inlet here, you can pick different choices. Then this one has a carbon style. It's a carbon fabric, so to say. Leatherette soft arm cover. Good is also that the inside of the doors is quite wide. You can also fit bigger bottles there. Very handy. Then there's this R steering wheel with the logo. Pretty compact steering wheel. Cruise control on the left side. You also have a volume control here at the steering wheel. Then those digital instruments are optional for the Golf R. You can also go with the analog ones. With the Golf GTI TCR, for example, and the GTI Performance, those come as standard. With the Golf R, you could still go for the standard ones. But it looks more modern, makes the car also, let's say, less dated since the facelift. Then the seats, they standard come with a fabric Alcantara mix. Then would be seeing Alcantara right here, where you see this carbon style leatherette right again. I would also recommend the fabric Alcantara seats. They stay a little bit warmer in winter and cooler in summer. This one, the optional animal skin pack. But we've tested the other ones as well and they work very well. The seat form is the same, however. And overall, the Golf is king of comfort in the compact segment. Alongside, I would say, with the Honda Civic, because the Honda Civic is just a little bit bigger car and it offers also great seating comfort in the very front. And also, of course, the Skoda Octavia, but basically size was already a mid-size segment. But again, you have a pretty neutral standard seating position. You know, what you expect from a car, basically. That's the Golf. The Golf is the car, so to say. Headroom. 1m86 or 6'1" is my height, and we got a panoramic roof here, small one, but that still leaves some headroom, so that's quite okay. You've got a good seating position. You can very well control the car. Remember, especially when driving on ice, you shouldn't stretch your legs all the way if you hammer the brakes, because you need some resistance in the back. You need to really push the brakes when you do a full braking, just also on a normal road. And with the steering wheel, I don't have to be too far away, but also not too close. So a good neutral position that I can really turn away. And then when I start to cross over, I would take away the lower hand and just use the upper one until I maybe grab over again or something. But most of the time, this steering wheel is very progressive. Most of the time, you also on road driving, you just use it like this and that's it. And that's really great with their steering setup, that it's so progressive that you can keep both hands at the steering wheel all the time, especially with the Dsg, and you don't have to cross over that much. So that's, I think, a very good setup. Electric seat setup are also right here with an electric lumbar support. That comes quite handy too. You can put it here in the rear, and even 3 memory seat function if you like so. Interior overview of the Golf R, soft touch here at the top dashboard. Oh, well, this area does create some wetting, but only when you really touch it down, very hard. But the question is also, who would ever do that? The only thing I don't like is this split right here, because this is one part and this is one part that is, has a better solution in the Seat Leon, for example, where you have this rather horizontal layout in this over part. I'm really interested to see if they change that in the next generation. 8-inch screen would be standard. This one is the optional 9.2, which then also has this gesture function, but you can surely live without it. The smaller one has the advantage that you can still have some knobs here for volume and for zooming in on the map. This one here is all with those capacitive buttons. It looks cleaner, of course, and the screen is a little bit more fancy. But again, the smaller one has also those advantages if you prefer those knobs. You also have the Apple CarPlay connection right here, and then you can also listen to your music while going back to the GPS screen. That's of course always very important. Then if we go further down, we have classic climate controls. You could also very well use them while driving. That's a good thing. And lower part, then where I connect my smartphone, sadly so far just one USB port. You can also close that one, but with the cable a little bit blocking. Then important, there's the drive mode selector. By the way, still a manual gearbox also available if you like one, but the Dsg is faster. The drive mode selector, that is interesting. There's also race mode available, so to boost up in the RPMs, even though in the comfort mode, the suspension is a little bit softer. The DCC is built in here in the Golf R, that's the adaptive suspension. On snow and ice, the DCC with comfort could be more useful because it keeps the tire a little bit softer on the ground, evens out the stuff that's different from the dry race trick. And then we have the button for the ESC. So at the moment, ESC is turned all the way on. Then if I press it once, we go to the Esc Sport. And that one also is shown then in those digital instruments. This one would be ESC drawn back a little bit. Then if I activate it again, but then click and hold it, then we can go to the, it also gives a beep, to the ESC off. And that's only possible for the Golf R and for some of the all-wheel drive models from Volkswagen, that you can completely turn it off. Was not available in the previous generation of the Golf R. And that's of course really great to turn it up here on the ice. Those digital instruments, by the way, they are pretty flexible. You can put the GPS in the middle part, and you can see that we are right there on water, basically. But then you can also have some, changes for the data you want to see there, phone info in the middle, or also driving data and so on. So that's cool, and they're giving you a very, very good visibility as well, even if it's a little bit brighter outside. I really like those. However, I'm also fine with analog instruments, but they make it more modern for sure. You can see it also can vary the size of the RPM or the speed. Adaptive cup holders right here, that works pretty well, and everything is again from a very solid build quality. That's the standard key, by the way. You don't get a special Golf R key. And then this little console, and you can see here everything is so well attached you cannot shake it. It's also one of the quality features. And as I said, we have the panoramic roof here with a manual shade right there, and then let's also open it to show you that how far it really goes. Here we go, and well, that's the only time of the day I would do that. The car is still clean here at this morning. Later on, when they will be building snow and ice layers on top of the roof, I won't open that anymore. Let's get in the rear. Oh, I forgot the shoe tab. Don't want to bring snow in the car. A little bit too late. I still remembered it. Well, I do fit in here, so with 4 tall Ls you can drive, even though you don't have plenty of legroom. Also a big middle tunnel with the all-wheel drive system. That will change when the new electric cars will be coming more and more to the market. Then there will be no middle tunnel. Headroom wise, this is also very good result. So it has a very good size for the whole compact segment. If you think about the package from the exterior to the interior relation. Back part here, this is not from Soft Touch. You can see it on Jonas' side at the moment. Then the seats have the same design. Of course, would be the same also when you go for the fabric version. And then there are some cup holders right here in the rear. And you can use this one here as a ski hatch to load things through. As well as flipping the seats right from here in a 2/3, 1/3 split, and 2 Isofix on the outside seats each. Now it's still pretty clean, but I can tell you yesterday everything was already covered in ice, and we were still able to flip the logo and open the trunk. I was, really keen on that. Really interesting. So this is a racing review, probably the only one where you can also see in a racing review someone is using a measuring stick. That's Autogefühl, only with the Germans. So this is a standard backpack. You can see also the size relation then here, and the length is 75 centimeters, as well as the width is always about a meter, even a little bit more than a meter. So actually quite square dimensions, and the height to the cover right there, about 43 centimeters. So overall, again, very well usable considering it's just a compact hatch. And you can even flip the seats from here. You don't have to go around if you grab over just a little bit. And we have the maximum setup. So let's do what we came Year 4. Welcome to Thomas's Ice Driving School. And I'm in ESC off, manual mode, race mode. So I got the shifting stick to the right side. The car only shifts up when it hits the rev limiter, so it's not always staying in the gear. So the DSG has to shift at some point, but of course it gives me more manual freedom. Here I'm going to first gear. This hairpin corner. The rest of the track I'm rather using in second gear, now turning the car, and here's now steering with the throttle a little bit. Loose snow right and left. We can use a little bit of snow plowing then here. This is a long left hand. Look at that. This is so great. Now I think I get a little bit more throttle. Here we go. This is really so great. And this car indeed has a superb handling. It's really neutral, nice to handle. I feel that the power is being transported to the rear wheels. Now I'm over rotating the car to the left, to the one side, and then here they can throw it back around at the other side. Otherwise, this hairpin corner is so tight I could not steer it. If I would just use the normal steering and put the car around the corner, I really need the swing for that. Now back to the first gear. As I said earlier, to me this is really one of the most fun things you can do. The manufacturers actually also offer those driving camps here, so a lot of different manufacturers are doing their secret testing here, their official testing, and also customer driving experiences. So it's really a cool thing to do, and you learn so much, of course, especially if it's the car that you are driving on your own. And yeah, here about the Golf, again, you can feel it's a good weight balance. It's a neutral car, especially with the all-wheel drive, very well to control. You can see here, pull it smoothly through this circle. And when you just have, for example, a lot of power on the rear axle, it can be really much harder to do that. Of course, you get around those corners maybe a little bit better because you can slide around all the way. But this one, you see, also with the all-wheel drive, it works very well. Although they're basically never more power on the rear axle than on the front axle. But you can initiate it a little bit, for example, also when you're here in front of a corner, and then use a downshift and use the engine brake, and that also helps them to shift the weight. The rear gets light, and then it's actually easier to put the car around. That's very interesting. This one is also very interesting because we got some snow here on the track, so you can see it flies up. One corner, a little bit counter steering, and here we go again. So when you're doing it the very first time, you go slowly, bit by bit, and then there comes a phase where you're maybe a little bit hectic or something, and you hit the throttle too much, and that's then also the situation where you might go off track or something. And well, in this track here, it's quite forgiving because there's a soft snow plow. It has been snowing in a lot recently. But sometimes you have those tracks where you have some hard-pack walls. Look at it. This is so cool. So you have some hard-pack walls right and left, and then it can be really damaging the car. Also, the track is a little bit blown out from, well, myself already like this. But it's really cool. And also for co-driver, for example, Jonas right here. When we are on the dry race track somewhere, it's harder for the co-driver definitely because there are more G-force applied. Here we have definitely more drifting, but everything is like, this winter belay, and so it's also more forgiving for the co-driver. That's a really interesting aspect here too. Right and left, maybe you prefer drifting to one side or the other. This one is such an interesting corner. At first I was not, I had to learn this corner first. You have to be fast enough on the corner before to put the car that way, then you then can turn around the rear in the other direction. So if you're not fast enough in the corner before, it won't work in the next corner. Very interesting for sure. Yeah, this Dsg is working very well. Although I've been driving the manual version in 2.14 and that was also cool. Basically you need the second gear and that's it. Sometimes I'm here back to the first gear. I wouldn't do that with the manual, but with the Dsg it's definitely easier to do that for sure. Then in a straight you can accelerate a little bit more. Interesting is also when you're on that straight, you feel if you want to straighten out the car, hit the throttle and you feel the grip from those spike tires, and then you can also straighten out the car a little bit better. And you can see sometimes I'm not working the steering wheel too much. I just check the circle of the corner. This one, by the way, was a little bit too much outside. The lap before was better. So the track is also constantly changing. You have to read the track, how it's been changing. You have to feel it also a little bit. This one, by the way, was, this was very good. Then you have also the effect that I'm looking out the side window, the straight direction I'm going. That's actually, the coolest stuff. And this is, of course, my favorite corner here, this left one, because you can see almost 90 degrees the front to the inside of the corner, and then you can carry it all the way through. That is really super cool. So what about driving at home? Well, of course you can't do that at home unless my mates in Russia or something, they could maybe do that at home. Well, for you being at home, you know that Golf has a very nice and agile handling, that you can deactivate the ESC if you need some spin, you need to get out of something, and that you in general have a good control of the car. That is definitely important to know. However, if you now think about, let me just try that as a comparison, because sometimes in those trainings here we start like with ESC on, then we show you Esc Sport, okay, a little bit more loose, and then the third step here with the ESC off. But now if we go directly from ESC off completely to ESC on, let's see what happens. So now I'm in the corner and let me just drive as I would be driving before. See, the car goes a little sideways, just a little bit, but now I've some problems to put it on the corner. Here, see how slow I got here? Because the ESC then, they are also then in the right front. So the car was going a little bit more, but yeah, you see, it's still somewhat possible. So because it's really ice, not snow, it's really ice underneath us. And how calm and stable the car is with the ESC on, that's really astonishing. So it almost drives like being on rails here, for example here, when I'm not drifting then through the corner. I don't even have to counter steer. That's really astonishing, and that is probably even the most interesting thing to learn then right here, that you can trust those ESC systems and you have this safety net. It will be even more interesting when those electric cars will be coming, because they are then, at least in the Volkswagen AG, they are rear-wheel drive platforms mainly. That is very interesting for sure. So let's deactivate ESC again, there we go. Of course an optional all-wheel drive, but they will be tested here as well. Let's see how long the battery holds. And so very interesting aspects there as for this. So now we go with the ESC off again, and you can clearly see the difference. And especially also when I'm putting my foot on the throttle with the ESC, I could punch it all the way through and the system would intervene. And here, of course, it does not do that. So I really hope you enjoy that track here with me, because I drove it a little bit out. You can also see the darker surface here underneath the snow. That also helps it to realize it on camera just a bit, because it's hard to see in general in comparison to a dry racetrack, for example. All the way around with the steering and throttle out. Such a great. when we would have Jonas' window open right here, for example, I was talking and then missing the corner. See here, just a second too late, and then the corner is gone basically, and you slow down so much. But then again, of course, drifting is not the fastest way to move, even not on ice. You've seen it how many times Sebastian Loeb was world champion in rally, and he was driving the very opposite of Colin McRae, for example. You know, Colin McRae at those times always going sideways, or also Carlos Sainz. But Sebastian Loeb always winning because he was not going sideways actually. Very interesting. So, not a very not a very fast way to go around the track, but of course, it is just the most fun way to go around this very track. Wow, the snow has really picked up just right for our conclusion for the day with the Golf R Mark 7.5. So I think it was very interesting today together with you. The Golf itself, it has aged pretty well. Some of you said that as well, both on the exterior and the interior. The facelift added some more digital features, of course, and a little bit more power. But most important, of course, this change to the 7-speed Dsg with the wet clutch. And we really have to say, I mean, we really hammered this car and there was no technical incident. The only thing that was very interesting to know, when can it be possible overheating? Well, that was when you were, for example, hitting a snow wall, like a snowplow in the front, and then the lower cooler area was blocked all the way, and you know, no cool air could be coming to the engine. And then you were spinning around the circle, then the temperature could go like, you know, for water and all, like to 130, and when it was raining over 130, then at some point the car then said, engine is going to be overheating, please stop the car and let it cool down. Then we went out and see, oh wow, the cooler is totally blocked in the front, and then we cleaned this whole area here, and then you could immediately see the temperatures drop again. So very interesting. So it seems really now, this is a very extreme situation, of course. So but even then, the systems are calibrated in a way that they warn you in advance that nothing can happen. And that so many other cars are being also driving here all the way around, and those systems here at the end stage of this generation of the Golf seem to be pretty reliable, both from transmission, engine, clutch components, and so on. And this is also one of the main reasons why the manufacturers go there, to really test the cars to their full potential and see what could possibly go wrong. You know, 1/3 of the whole development stage and so on is being done in the simulation and 3D stuff. But some things you just have to test in reality. That's why we're also here right there today with you. And of course, thinking about 5 years ago with my personal drift story, with my story with the Golf R, of course it's somehow an emotional bond for sure. And this is also the time I realized that even though it's such a normal and standard car, it's the most sold car in Germany. It's also one of the most sold cars worldwide then, together with the Jetta, with the sedan version of the Golf. But yet again, if you put a strong engine in it, maybe some more sound, especially throwing it sideways, it becomes not only a normal car, but also something pretty unique for sure. And of course, the great handling you could test here on those snow tracks, showing that although it's basically a front-wheel drive platform and a compact hatch, it really has some strengths in this, light building style and a great agility because it's so well balanced. So definitely one of the best cars, also normal, ordinary people without being super great racing drivers can do some great lap times both on the dry and also some fun stuff here on the snow tracks. So I hope you really enjoyed our special episode here today. Shout out also to Jonas, our magician behind the camera, for the great visuals, and see you next time.